So what is the alternative that I mentioned earlier? Okay, it is none other than REITs. All right, going to shoot myself over here because it is not really property related, but I feel, I mean, to be very objective from investment point of view, it does offer the same exposure, if not a better one, with less risk and more flexibility. So for me, when I advise, at the end of the day, from a client-centric point of view, it is about constructing a portfolio, a real estate portfolio that's all-weathered, holistic, and something that can also generate a constant stream of passive income when you're 65 with everything fully paid up. So that is the end goal. And I think right now there's a good opportunity in the market to start acquiring if you haven't, or to even acquire more, okay, as part of your real estate portfolio, retirement portfolio, that can give you a strong passive income in the future. All right. So what's the context? It's something interesting when I learn a bit more. Okay, this is by no means, a stock equity kind of advice. I mean, there are many other videos which are more in depth. So it's something general from a property realtor point of view per se. Okay. When I look into it, it's very interesting because when you're comparing the Western equity market and the Asian equity market, it is very different dynamics altogether. See, the Western market, it is very growth per se. You got the tech stocks. You can see stocks doubling, tripling, 5x, 10x during after the post-COVID period. But I think it also stemmed from them being a very capitalist nature. Everything is high cost and high growth. But in the local Asian market per se, Hong Kong, Singapore market, it's more conservative, right? We are more the savers mindset. We are more coming in from more income perspective. That's why you can see a lot of the STI stocks, they are all very income producing with preference towards, even the index is very preference towards income producing stocks to give that kind of stability and very conservative in nature. So in that sense, this REITs, it's also in tune with the environment that what the local market is having, right? In the risk environment right here, it's very pro-REIT in the sense that it's a tax haven if they pay out at least 90% of their returns to shareholders. Okay, as compared to the US market, if I'm not wrong, they are taxing 20 to 30%. So if you are something that want to take advantage of the REITs market, the income side of things, I think the local market, the Hong Kong market, the China market, it's really something to take advantage of, right? Okay, it's very interesting also because when you look into it, it offers a lot of diversification. Just now I talked about some of the attributes about this commercial industrial property, hard asset per se. It is singular focus. When you buy something at 1,800,000 or even 20 million, it is that particular one. But for REITs, there's a lot of diversification, right? A simple way of looking at it or getting some exposure, of course, is the ETFs. I think a very good ETF is the Nikko AM. The short code is CFA. It of course, is invested into all the different spectrum, all the way from, your industrial, your medical, your logistics, your data center, your hotel, and even at different geographical regions like Singapore, Hong Kong, China, everything. So it offers a lot of diversification. And it comes also in a very bite-sized format as compared to the hard asset where you cannot use CPF and you have used a lot of cash. This bite size, you can buy as little as, I don't know, $100 per month. If you do a dollar cost average, I think it gives you a good exposure and it builds a very diversified way, a prudent way of accumulating this asset class also. Okay, and at the same time, you're also acquiring the highest quality asset. Okay, of course, there are different spectrum, those that gives very high return and those that are very junk status, right? Because their asset holding itself may not be the best one. I'm of the view that you should definitely go for the better ones that are backed by the government. You're talking about all the ones that's Capital Land, Keppel, even Mapletree, that if I'm not wrong, is wholly owned by Temasek, and of course backed by a quality sponsor manager that is managing that asset. So there are plenty out there in the REITs market, in the Singapore STI market, and if you're not sure, you can look at the ETF per se, right? I also like the fact that just now I mentioned you cannot use CPF for industrial properties, but you know that you can actually use CPF OA for buying REITs ETF. Especially the CFA one, which I did that not too long ago. Of course, when you're using CPF, okay, under the CPF investment scheme, you're sacrificing the 2.5% that you're getting from the government. But the fact is now, if you really look and do just a little bit simple research, you realize that even the ETF is yielding at least 6%. So if you are foregoing 2.5 and getting 6%, it is still a very good carry trade of at least, 4%. And we are not even talking about the capital appreciation that it might get moving forward. Okay, because right now, if you really look at the REITs market, you look at the chart over here, it is actually quite subdued. It has been coming down since maybe 4 to 5 years ago. I think mainly because of the high interest rate environment. And now, with signs the interest rate is peaking, it's just about how fast they drop the interest rates, right? And with their borrowing costs, if you really go down into their annual report and do some studies, you realize that their borrowing cost is also quite steady. The increase has been getting gradual and gradual, has been steadying up. And some of these, like I told you, because you're getting all the best quality REITs out there, they have a good economies of scale. They are massive. So as compared to a single person going to the bank to loan money to buy a single property, you don't have that much demand, you don't have that much power, demanding power over the bankers for a better rate as compared to them. So you see some of their cost of borrowing is definitely way better than what you go out there to get for a non-residential property, right? And talking about liquidity issue, okay, I think this is very important. I talk about that because in terms of economic uncertainty or what, sometimes a certain non-residential property may be hard to sell. And liquidity, whether it's residential or non-residential property, it is the biggest con. Because it's not like an equities that you can just press a button to sell and then you can sell and just take the market price. It's not like that. You have to market, and sometimes if the market is poor, it can take very long to sell, right? So if this REITs, because it is being sold like an equity with a buy-sell easily done, it kind of solves the liquidity issue altogether. You get best exposure, you get bite size. At the same time, if you need certain funds and if the pricing is good or what, you can always sell easily. So that's the best thing about it. It solves the inherent liquidity issue about hard property asset. All right. And I talk about timing. Yes, I think now it's a very good timing. Okay, this again is not stock advice, but if you're looking at it, right, it is at quite an all-time low and definitely way below its mean. So with interest rates stabilizing and even dropping in the future, and looking at their borrowing costs, they're getting down, and also their occupancy rates also stabilizing, I think it is a once in a decade kind of opportunity to get certain exposure to it. So I just show you over here that you can look at this CFA ETF, and if you look at its constituent holdings, you will see that these are some of the individual ones if you are more adventurous and want to get the individual ETF per se. And I think it kind of highlights the quality ones already because these are their top 10 holdings. Okay, CFA has exposure not just to Singapore because some of these constituents REITs, they have exposure to China, Hong Kong, and India, like CapitaLand. Okay, the first one you see, if I just go down the list to the top 10, the CapitaLand Integrated Commercial Trust, obviously is all their big CapitaLand malls. Ascendas is their industrial, CapitaLand Industrial. Link REITs is actually is one of the biggest, if not the biggest one in Asia that is listed in Hong Kong. It hosts all the very good REITs, and I think fundamentally also it is definitely a very good asset class, just being affected by the property down cycles in China. That's why the valuation dropped a lot. I think as a matter of fact, you know that this Link REITs actually owned, some time ago they bought from NTUC, they bought this Thomson Plaza. It's a very sought after mall in the Thomson locality. Always a car park full when I drive down there. So they actually own it, okay? Just imagine. So there's Link REITs, then there's Embassy Office Parks just at the number 4. Embassy Office Parks, I think they are primarily focused in India, so you get some exposure to India. Your Mapletree Logistics, Industrial, Logistic Parks, Industrial, they're all owned by Temasek. You got your Fraser, you got your Mapletree Pan Asia. Mapletree Pan Asia, I think the number one most people will know will be Vivo City, Fraser Center Point, of course, and then you got exposure, of course, to hotels, Escort Trust under CapitaLand. So it's very holistic, and you really get very good exposure to all the non-residential components of Singapore, right? And even overseas. So that's something to add. So just to put everything together over here, I think ultimately it's really about building a very holistic real estate portfolio. Yeah, maybe a realtor, but at the same time, when I look at coming from a client-centric point of view for the last 10 years, at the end of the day, when I'm looking to build my client's portfolio, it's about really maximizing their residential holdings. Okay, of course, if you're married as a couple, you can look into one person owning one, and as a household, you own two. That's what I do. That's what I've been doing also. So one is being rented out, it's one for you to stay. Eventually, my advice is always to build a residential portfolio of 3 to 5 million by the time you are 60, 65 years old to be fully paid up. Okay, at the end of the day, when you're 60, 65, of course you wouldn't be really working and you want a certain passive income stream. So if you have saved along the way, and you got some amount, I mean, you can put into some non-residential side of things, whether it's a property, hard asset I talked about, or getting exposure, very diversified and quick exposure to that side of things through REITs. So aim to build, again, residential portfolio of around 3 to 5 million. And then when I look at it from a financial point of view, financial planning point of view, even for myself, with that residential portfolio that can give me maybe a rental income. If I talk about just today perspective, you can give me maybe a 2-3 bedroom around 4,500. By then, of course, 65 years old will be fully paid out. With a CPF life paid out of a couple, me and my wife, it's around 7 grand. Right, we're talking about the latest one where they bump up that to be the enhanced, to be 4 times the basic retirement sum. If you're working diligently, I mean, topping up your CPF diligently, you should be able to get maybe 3 to 3,500 based on a CPF life payout, and that should bump you up to 7,000 as a couple. Together with this passive equity REITs portfolio, try to aim maybe by 65 years at $500,000 or so, and that should give you at least a 5-digit or up to 15,000 kind of monthly income passive when you stop work, retire at 65. I think that's the end goal. Obviously, the journey down there, if I tell you that if you're starting from nothing right now, it is a bit difficult. The younger you are, the easier it is because time is on your side, okay? But of course, you are older, 40s, 50s, then you got to be working a bit harder. So it's always a work in progress. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed the sharing today. Actually, if you have any other topics that you want me to talk about, please feel free to write in the comments. Okay, and I'll see you for the next one. Thank you.